Okay, guys, and we're back with another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest. I'm Seth from the Lonely Stoner podcast, and this is episode 36 of my side quest. As usual in these episodes, we're going to talk about probably a bit of boxing. Obviously, there's some fallout from the padley v Bivol 2 card. There was some, obviously, Vergil Ortiz fought on there. Shakur Stevenson fought on that card too. I'm basically going to talk about what's next for two of those world champions. Actually, I don't think Vergil Ortiz is a full world champion. But he'll be looking for a world championship fight next for sure. He's unbeaten at super welterweight. And there's a couple of world champions at super welterweight. Obviously, he just beat Madrimov in a fight that was competitive, but I did think Vergil Ortiz deserved to win that fight. I think the biggest next fight for Vergil Ortiz would be a Terence Crawford fight. And I think that would be a good fight. But Vergil Ortiz did have trouble at times with Madrimov, because Madrimov is no walkover. You know, if you're going to beat Madrimov, you've got to be a hell of a boxer. Terence Crawford beat him. Vergil Ortiz now beat him as well. And neither of them made it look easy. It wasn't easy work for either of these guys. But I think Vergil Ortiz will want the biggest money fight next, and that'll be the Terence Crawford fight. I know Terence Crawford seems like he's gunning for that Canelo fight. I don't know what weight class that would be at. I'm assuming maybe it'd be at, 160, but Canelo hasn't made 160 in a long time. So I'm not sure. I mean, even going up to 154 was, quite the leap for Terence Crawford. So for him to take another leap up to 160, I don't know. I think it's more likely that this Vergil Ortiz fight probably gets made. But you say that we do see quite a lot of stuff around the Canelo v Crawford fight. It's close to being made. It's going to be made. All this stuff. But yeah, I think Vergil Ortiz will want to fight Terence Crawford next for a world championship. That'd be a big money fight for him. That's an easily main event Riyadh season card, or one of the cards in America or wherever. But I don't think Vergil Ortiz beats Terence Crawford though. I don't think he gets through Terence Crawford. But in terms of big money fights, that's the name of the game at the end of the day. That is the name of the game. I think Vergil Ortiz potentially could cause Terence Crawford some problems with his pressure, and obviously him being a lot bigger than Terence Crawford too, because Terence Crawford is a natural welterweight at like 147, and Vergil Ortiz fights at 154. That being said, Terence Crawford is now a world champion at 154 after he beat Madrimov. But yeah, I mean, Terence Crawford's a hell of a boxer. Of course, he's got the technical ability, he's got the power as well. Obviously, we haven't seen that power really translate yet at super welterweight, because he's only fought Madrimov at super welterweight. But I don't think Terence Crawford would knock out Vergil Ortiz anyway. It probably would be a 12-round decision, but you never know. I think Vergil Ortiz going into that fight he's going to want to put on a lot of pressure, but Terence Crawford's no rookie. He's going to want to get his respect early in that fight and land some big shots and keep Vergil Ortiz honest. But we'll see if that fight gets made. It would be an interesting fight to see for sure. Stylistically, it could potentially be a war, because both guys are sort of front foot boxers. Neither of them are really counter fighters, but I would say the same thing for Madrimov and Ortiz, but Ortiz was pushing Madrimov back and was forcing him to be a counter fighter because Ortiz's pressure was so effective, right? It was just, so effective. But yeah, I think that fight, for Ortiz, he'll want that fight to be next. Of course, there's other world champions at super welterweight, but Terence Crawford's the biggest name, so that's who he'll want to fight. But maybe he'll fight one of the other world champions, and if he was to beat them, there may be a potential world title unification match against Terence Crawford. That would be quite appealing, I'd imagine. But yeah, interesting for Vergil Ortiz, and obviously a huge win against Madrimov, because Madrimov is no easy feat, no easy boxer to beat, and Vergil Ortiz, even though he had his problems at times, because Madrimov is going to cause anyone problems at super welterweight, for now especially. He done it with Terence Crawford, and he done it with Ortiz. He's going to cause anyone problems, and he's a former world champion for a reason. So, kudos to Vergil Ortiz for winning that fight. But next, I was reading an article around Shakur Stevenson saying that does it look like he's begging? Does he come across as begging for the Gervonta Davis fight? And I'm like, it's world championship boxing. Neither guy is really. It shouldn't come across as begging. Like, you want a big fight, you want to get paid. Like, there shouldn't be any ego there, in my opinion. Of course, they're boxers, they're professional athletes, they're celebrities. Of course, there's going to be ego there. But I don't think it's begging. I think Gervonta Davis v. Shakur Stevenson is in terms of money fight and in terms of both guys' brand value, that's the biggest next fight for both of these guys, I think. Maybe not for Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis has got some options, Lomachenko, Devin Haney, all these guys, right? But Shakur Stevenson, his next biggest fight would be Gervonta Davis. I mean, Gervonta Davis is still one of the biggest pay-per-view stars in boxing. You know, there's no doubt about that. He's still one of the biggest names. He's up there with your, well, at one point Anthony Joshua, but he's still up there with your Canelos, your Tank Davises. They are still some of the biggest names in the sport. And Tank Davis, he's fighting soon. I think he's fighting, is it this weekend? This weekend he's fighting. Another undefeated contender. That's what Gervonta Davis does. I think I saw his combined record of recent opponents is like 71-0. And guys will clown Davis and say he's fighting bums, but he's fighting undefeated boxers that all have a point to prove, all fight at the sort of world level, and that he's got the target on his back. He's the world champion. Guys want to come and beat him up and take his title, right? But guys haven't been able to do that. Guys haven't really been able to do that as of now. But yeah, I think Shakur Stevenson fight and the Gervonta Davis fight would be a huge fight for Shakur Stevenson and Gervonta Davis. I think that fight for Shakur Stevenson is his next biggest fight because there isn't really anyone else. To be fair, there are guys at lightweight that can contend. Obviously, Shakur will get some criticism for his recent performances. Obviously, he beat Padley in the 9th round, and guys will be saying, this guy's an electrician. Why didn't you get him out there in 1 round, 2 rounds? Come on now. But it's just the way it is. Shakur Stevenson's not a knockout artist. He never has been, and he never will be. So it's these things that people kind of put these unrealistic expectations. Okay, if Gervonta Davis had gone out and knocked out his last 10 opponents and then couldn't knock out Padley, you'd be like, okay, maybe something's up here. Shakur Stevenson doesn't knock fighters out, though. That's not his game. He is a slick, and he's an extremely fast boxer, extremely fast puncher. He mixes it up to the body, to the head, and he breaks you down. Because you can't match his speed. And even Padley, when he was looking scrappy early on in the fight and was able to keep it somewhat competitive, he was still losing those rounds. Shakur Stevenson was still doing by far the cleaner work, And then eventually he broke him down and got the stoppage. Shakur Stevenson done what he was supposed to do, in my opinion, right? He done what he was supposed to do, in my opinion. But yeah, I think it's an interesting situation for both guys. I'm assuming Gervonta Davis is going to win this fight. He will win this fight, his next fight. But will he beat Shakur Stevenson? In my opinion, he probably does beat Shakur Stevenson. Now, Shakur Stevenson, I've talked about him before on the pod and then in previous SideQuest episodes. As an amateur, this guy has accomplished everything you can accomplish as an amateur. Olympic silver medalist, as a junior and as a youth, won everything there was to win. Junior, like national championships, world championships, won everything, right? But he would never have faced, in the pros, a big as puncher as Gervonta Davis. Especially not on as big of a stage as what he's going to fight Gervonta Davis on when they fight. Because when they fight, believe me, that will be a huge promotion. It'll be a world title main event, 12-round fight under the spotlight. Has he ever been hit that hard, that quickly by someone like Gervonta Davis in that moment? No, he hasn't. And the same can be said for Gervonta Davis. Has he faced someone as quick? Mate, Ryan Garcia is probably just as quick. Technically nowhere near as good as Shakur Stevenson. But in terms of pure speed, he probably is up there, right? But I guess the technique is a whole different ballgame because technically... So it's interesting because Gervonta Davis will be the hardest puncher Shakur Stevenson's ever faced. And Shakur Stevenson will be technically probably the best boxer Gervonta Davis has ever faced. That's what makes this fight so interesting to me. I think Gervonta Davis is... I don't know. I wouldn't even say Gervonta Davis is necessarily the bigger guy out of the two. I probably would now at this point because Gervonta Davis has been at these weight classes for longer now and his body's probably grown into it a bit more. Whereas Shakur Stevenson's, featherweight, super featherweight, now lightweight. He's not been at lightweight for loads of time, whereas Gervonta Davis has been at this weight class for quite some time now. So his body's had a chance to sort of grow into it. But I think that's a really interesting fight there, and I would be very interested to see who wins that fight and who comes out on top, and also what would be next for the winner and loser of that fight. Because say Gervonta Davis and Shakur Stevenson fight, say they fight this year towards the end of the year, what's next for Gervonta Davis? Does he go up another weight class and fight someone else? Because if he fights Gervonta Davis at lightweight, he go up to maybe, super lightweight, welterweight? Surely not. I mean, Gervonta Davis surely would be too small for welterweight, but it's boxing at the end of the day, and stranger things have happened. And then obviously Shakur Stevenson, say he was to lose that fight, then, what's next for him? Does he go back down to, super featherweight or featherweight maybe, and, continues to be world champion there? That's not a bad shout for him. Or if he was to win, he probably stays at lightweight for a while, maybe consolidates world championships, becomes undisputed maybe, because he's got that in his bag. Because really, your biggest challenge there would be a Tank Davis. And if you can beat Tank, then, you've got a good chance against the rest of the division. But yeah, that's probably be it from me. Another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest in the bag. We talked about what's next for Vergil Ortiz and what's next for Shakur Stevenson. And I think both guys have got potentially very big futures in the sport of boxing. But let's see what's next for these guys, because it's boxing and anything can happen. We've seen stranger things happen. We've seen upsets, we've seen injuries, we've seen pullouts, we've seen all sorts of stuff in boxing. And we all know anything can happen. So that'll be it from me. Another episode in the bag, episode 36, and I'm out. Peace.